Hi, Scott. So I tried to derive the two shapes from your curves that you had presented. Uh, this one being that side view of your pod, and then this one being a top view of the piece that runs from the plane down to the pod. Um, so to make the pod, I use blend. There's some different ways to do it. You could actually use revolve and then deform it. Um, I use blend, and if you if you wanted to use the revolve one, will give you some better um, ability to to change the shape of the bulge in your original curves, which came way out. The blend I used didn't actually match that, but with a revolve, I could actually turn the points of a revolve on and then move it around a bit so that it exactly matched that particular shape coming out this way. So anyway, the way I got my shape was I just did extrude. You want to turn the caps off because I'm just going to use a surface to get my uh, blend edges. So, and I also need to trim this part here. Let's trim and add a trim point, so right in the middle, and that gives me two curves that I can run blend on to create a bulge. So yeah, I did whether it's what type of bulge you choose, you know. So now looking from the top view was the bulge I created for your pod. Again, I think in your original curves, if I had those in this file, yours came out here and then cut down. So how to change and adjust that, the perfect G2 blend off of that shape that I had created there didn't match those. But if you needed to match them, you could probably do it better with a revolve. And then because with a revolve, even as a solid, a revolve object allows you to turn points on like this. So these points aren't going to be configured in a way that will allow you to grab just a couple right in here and move that bulge up. However, on a revolve, it's going to be more like a square grid point thing, and you could just grab a single row of points that kind of denote that area there and shuffle it this way a bit, and that entire bulge will move up and still keep the continuity on the ends there. So basically, that's how I made your pod there, mirrored it, and then I joined it together, and so it's got that bulging property from that pod that you had, which is that base shape. And from here too, you can even, if that wasn't quite the shape in the front view, like, okay, that's, say if you got the top view and that side view, you can goof around with changing that too once you do your blend if you needed to change it that way. So next would be that one there. I just extruded that up, and I want to extrude that up now as a solid, and basically that's it right there. If you boolean those together, then I can fillet those now. Wait. Yeah, so now I have, there's that seam there, right? And we can fillet that at 2. And so that's how you start looking for your curvature. These are the seams I was talking about. Note how in your original file you're actually trying to model these seam edges that are flowing in 3D around, with a perfect G2 blend seam edge. You're trying to model that by hand. That's going to be very difficult. So if you can model it, if you can figure out what the size of these two objects or the shape, then you can actually control these seam edges to pretty much match up with your side view seam edges, and then you should have a perfect blended shape. Now, note when you start trying to, anytime you got to fill it or anything, if you're trying to really stretch a radius too much, like I just put a 4 in there, which is really huge, it's going to start stretching your surface, and you'll notice some kind of, it's just really straining the surface. And also, I wanted to point out in my model that I'd originally sent you is I made something that would be a mistake to try and get the shape we wanted, because as you start getting larger, when you have you'll notice my shape here is actually a rounded hard, it's just a smooth rounded corner, and so I'm trying to make this fillet bend around here. So if you go look in like the models I presented or anything, this back shape is going to start twisting up on itself and being a really poorly defined surface. So like if I did try to do that you'll see it starts folding over on itself and really screwing up. And that comes from my original curve, trying to model that curve. So really what you would do is this should just be a hard edge, and then the fillet would be different. It would come down straight, and it would fillet around. You could go much bigger, and it wouldn't bugger up there in the corners. The other thing is as you're modeling stuff like this and you're working, going, well, that doesn't quite create the shape I want, but like looking at, you can really change the way the whole fillet looks and works and everything by even when you start angling things. That'll change the way the whole fillet interacts. Like that back here would be really a lot bigger, and it would just be a really short thing here. So when you start fooling around with stuff like that, and you would get, so in yours you have this curvature, and then the curvature that goes back up would be the fillet that goes where you boolean that into the body. Anyway, again, if I was doing it, I would hard edge. I would just make this come straight back to a point, because trying to get the size of the fillet needed to create that curvature in the back is not going to work with this tight little modeled radius I want. I want to put a point and let the filleting work afterwards. So that's how I did your model.